Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in. Because today we're going to shatter a dangerously incomplete idea about human happiness that, well, you probably believe right now. If you've ever felt totally drained after hours on your phone, but still felt this weird urge to pick it right back up, you're experiencing something researchers are just now fully understanding. We're looking at the massive gap between engineered addiction and human attention, and decoding exactly why our modern world feels so incredibly overwhelming. You see, back in 1948, neuroscientists firmly believed dopamine was the pleasure chemical. They thought it was literally the feeling of joy. But today, elite researchers know that idea was dangerously incomplete. Dopamine is not the chemical of happiness. It's actually the chemical of pursuit. And honestly, that crucial misunderstanding might perfectly explain why modern society is producing millions of people who are simultaneously overstimulated, completely emotionally exhausted, and yet unable to ever really feel satisfied.
So think about it like this. The greatest addiction in human history isn't actually drugs. It's anticipation. Every single scroll, every little notification ping, every swipe across your screen carries the exact same subconscious thought. Maybe this next video will change my life. Your brain is no longer just consuming content. It's actively being trained into an endless prediction machine. And the truly scary part? Most people never even realize they're caught in the trap.
What's wild is that ancient philosophers warned us about this thousands of years ago. The Stoics warned that desire itself could literally enslave the mind. In Buddhism, craving was considered the very root of suffering. Fast forward to today, and modern neuroscience has reached a terrifyingly similar conclusion. They found that dopamine spikes highest not when you actually get a reward, but right before you might receive one. The spike is in the anticipation, and that one single discovery, it absolutely changed behavioral science forever.
This brings us to something psychologists call variable reward reinforcement. Casinos understand this deeply. Social media and streaming platforms understand it perfectly. And let's be real, your brain never stood a chance. The core insight here is that a guaranteed reward eventually gets boring to us. But an unpredictable reward, that keeps the brain completely obsessed. The uncertainty itself is the actual addiction.
Because of this, your phone is essentially a portable casino engineered specifically for human attention. Think about it. When you pull the lever on a slot machine, you don't know what you're going to get. When you pull to refresh your social media feed, you don't know what you're going to get either. It's the exact same psychological mechanism sitting right there in your pocket, functioning exactly like a slot machine for your attention.
But here's where things get a bit darker. The top 0.01% of experts know that dopamine doesn't just affect pleasure, and actually alters your perception of reality. High dopamine states literally distort time. That's exactly why you can hop online for what feels like 5 minutes and suddenly realize 2 whole hours just vanished. Your brain enters what's called a reward-seeking attentional tunnel. Your prefrontal cortex, the logical, long-term judgment part, gets weaker, while your impulsive systems hijack the wheel. You aren't losing intelligence, you're just temporarily losing governance over it. And history shows us this pattern over and over again. The Roman Empire used gladiator games and endless public spectacle to pacify the masses. Modern civilization, well, we simply replaced the Colosseum with infinite scrolling. It's entirely different technology, sure, but it operates on the exact same psychological architecture to capture and hold our attention. Now combine this with modern economics. The economy no longer competes primarily for your money, it competes for your attention. Why? Because attention is upstream from all human behavior. If a corporation can control your attention, it can influence your desires. Influence those desires, and you influence purchases. Influence purchases, and you actively influence the future. It's a direct pipeline.
So if a corporation can walk you through that entire pipeline, it proves a really unsettling reality. You aren't consuming a product. Your behavior is the product, and it's being actively modified. Those endless streams of videos and posts, they aren't the end goal. They're just the vehicle used to shape what you want, what you do, and how you act in the real world.
Which leads us to a brutal truth. When your brain experiences constant artificial stimulation, it adapts upward. Once that baseline rises, normal reality just can't compete anymore, and ordinary life starts to feel emotionally flat. Reading a book suddenly becomes difficult, sitting in silence feels physically uncomfortable, deep work feels painful. Even your real human relationships start feeling slower than the rapid-fire excitement on your screen. And you don't even notice it happening because the decline is so gradual. Just one extra scroll, one extra ping, until your mind is totally dependent on intensity just to feel normal. Here's the thing. Most people think freedom means just doing whatever you feel like doing in the moment. But elite psychologists know true freedom is actually the ability to resist those compulsive impulses.
That's why so many high performers intentionally practice dopamine baseline recalibration, where they actively reduce their daily stimulation. They aren't doing this because they hate pleasure. They do it because they know constant overstimulation completely destroys their sensitivity to real everyday life.
And if we zoom out, historically, civilizations collapse psychologically long before they collapse economically. This gradual individual decline leads to a permanent state of societal distraction. When depth disappears from a society, people stop reflecting, they stop questioning things, and eventually, they completely stop thinking independently.
Centuries before smartphones and digital casinos were even a thought, the philosopher Blaise Pascal penned this stark truth. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. It is an astonishingly predictive quote. Looking at our attention-depleted world today, it's safe to say modern neuroscience has absolutely proven him right.
Section 1. The duality of dopamine.
Now, the goal here isn't to destroy dopamine, right? Because there's another side to it that almost nobody talks about. Dopamine is also the profound source of human ambition, exploration, and all civilizational progress. Without it, we'd never build companies, create breathtaking art, or invent new tech. The goal is simply to reclaim control over what actually triggers it. You basically have two forms. Cheap dopamine comes instantly from scrolling, junk content, endless novelty. That actively weakens your identity. Earned dopamine, on the other hand, comes strictly after effort, from mastery, discipline, fitness, or building relationships. And that type, that completely strengthens your identity.
This dynamic makes it incredibly clear what the true conflict of our era really is. The defining battle of the 21st century isn't going to be man versus machine. It is going to be human attention versus engineered addiction. The forces trying to capture your dopamine are incredibly sophisticated for sure, but once you understand how they operate, they can absolutely be resisted.
The people who actually learn to master their attention and resist these compulsive impulses are the ones who are going to completely dominate the future. We live in an entirely overstimulated world now, and in this environment, the rarest luxury you can possess is no longer material wealth. The ultimate luxury is an undistracted mind.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative question to think about. What actually happens the moment you finally stop endlessly chasing dopamine? Like when you step off the prediction machine, put down the digital slot machine, and stop letting algorithms manipulate your anticipation.
The final irony is this. Once you break that cycle of engineered addiction, you find something vastly more powerful than constant stimulation to guide your life. You rediscover peace. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you reclaim your focus, reset your baseline, and cultivate an undistracted mind.